You keep telling yourself you're burnout. You keep saying you're tired, drained, overwhelmed, but let's cut the bullshit right now. You're not burnout, you're undisciplined. Burnout comes from carrying weight for too long. What you're feeling comes from avoiding it, from starting and stopping, from inconsistency, from living without structure. That emptiness you feel is not exhaustion. It's frustration with yourself. Because deep down you know you're capable of more and you're not doing it. That's what hurts. Not the work, the avoidance. You scroll, you distract yourself, you rest without earning it. You consume motivation instead of becoming it. And then you wonder why you feel weak, why your confidence is fragile, why pressure breaks you. It's because discipline is missing. And without discipline, everything collapses. Motivation fades. Energy disappears. Focus dies. And you call it burnout because that sounds nicer than the truth. The truth is, you've been letting yourself off the hook for too long. You've been negotiating with weakness. And weakness always wins negotiations. Discipline doesn't negotiate. Discipline decides. Discipline moves whether you feel like it or not. And that's why disciplined people don't burn out the same way you do. They're not relying on feelings. They're relying on systems. You wake up tired and ask yourself how you feel. They wake up tired and execute anyway. That's the difference. You want to feel ready. They train until readiness doesn't matter. You want motivation. They build habits so strong motivation becomes irrelevant. And that's why they move forward while you feel stuck. You don't need a break. You don't need comfort. You need standards. You don't need inspiration. You need rules for your own behavior. Because when there are no rules, the weakest part of you takes control. And it will always choose the easiest option. Every time you skip the work because you're tired, you teach your brain that tired means stop. Every time you quit because it's uncomfortable, you teach your brain that discomfort is danger. And then you wonder why you panic under pressure, why stress overwhelms you, why life feels heavy. You trained yourself for that reaction. You didn't train endurance, you didn't train focus, you didn't train follow through, you trained escape. And now you're living with the consequences. This is where it changes. Not because you feel inspired, but because you're done lying to yourself. Burnout is real, but most people never get there. They quit long before that point. They confuse boredom with burnout, resistance with exhaustion. Discipline feels heavy at first because you're weak at it. Just like the gym, just like any skill, the first reps hurt the most. And most people stop there and call it burnout. But strength is built after that point. On the other side of resistance. On the other side of discomfort. On the other side of doing it anyway. That's where confidence lives. That's where self-respect is forged. So when life gets heavy, they don't panic, they execute. You want that. But you don't get it by avoiding hard days. You get it by surviving them repeatedly. The truth is simple but brutal. If you were disciplined, you wouldn't feel lost. If you were disciplined, you wouldn't feel overwhelmed by basic responsibilities. If you were disciplined, you wouldn't need constant motivation to do what needs to be done. Discipline removes chaos. It creates order. And order creates peace. Not comfort, peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're handling your shit. Right now, part of you knows you're not. And that's why this hurts to hear. Good. Pain is information. Don't numb it. Listen to it. That discomfort is telling you exactly where to grow. You don't need to fix your entire life today. You need to stop breaking promises to yourself. Start there. Wake up when you say you will. Train when you say you will. Work when you say you will. Even when you don't feel like it. Especially then. That's how discipline is built. Through repetition under resistance. Through action without emotion. At first, it will feel forced, mechanical, cold. That's fine. You're not trying to feel good. You're trying to become dangerous. Dangerous to your old habits. Dangerous to your excuses. Dangerous to the version of you that keeps settling. That version has had enough control. It's time you take it back. Not aggressively. Consistently. Relentlessly. Quietly. You don't need to announce this change. You don't need validation. You need execution. Let people underestimate you. Let them think you're tired. Let them think you're burnt out while you're rebuilding yourself in silence. Because when discipline becomes your identity, you stop explaining. You start showing. And results speak louder than anything you could ever say. You have to understand this. Discipline is not about intensity. It's about obedience. Obedience to the plan when your emotions are screaming for relief. Obedience to the standard when no one is watching. Obedience to the future you say you want but haven't earned yet. Most people fail here, not because they're incapable, but because they're undisciplined. They rely on how they feel, and feelings are unstable. Feelings change with sleep, with stress, with comfort, with boredom. Discipline does not. That's why disciplined people are consistent and emotional people are not. You can feel motivated today and useless tomorrow. But if you are disciplined, tomorrow still gets done. That's the difference between progress and stagnation. You don't need more energy. You need fewer excuses. You don't need more time. You need better control over how you use it. Look at how much energy you spend thinking instead of doing, overanalyzing instead of executing, waiting instead of starting. That mental friction is not burnout. It's avoidance disguised as complexity. The work is simple, hard, but simple. Show up, do the task, finish it, repeat. That's it. Everything else is noise. And noise is what weak habits thrive on. Distraction, comfort, endless stimulation. Your mind has been trained to avoid silence because silence forces confrontation. In silence, you hear the truth. In silence, you realize how far behind you are. In silence, there's no one to blame. That's why you escape it. But silence is where discipline is built. In those moments when no one is cheering, no one is watching, no one cares, that's where your character is decided. You don't rise when things are easy. You reveal who you are when they're not. And right now, life is showing you exactly where you stand. If pressure breaks you, it means you haven't trained enough under pressure. If small setbacks destroy your momentum, it means your foundation is weak. That's not an insult. That's information. Use it. You don't fix weakness by avoiding it. You fix it by attacking it repeatedly. The gym teaches this, life teaches this, discipline teaches this. Every rep strengthens something. Every skipped rep weakens something. And that applies to everything. Your body, your mind, your work, your relationships. Every time you avoid responsibility, you train avoidance. Every time you face it, you train resilience. There is no in-between. And resilience compounds, slowly, quietly, until one day you realize you're no longer shaken by things that used to paralyze you. That's when people say you've changed. They're right. You have. You didn't become colder. You became stronger. You didn't lose emotion. You gained control over it. You stopped letting temporary feelings sabotage long-term goals. That's maturity. That's discipline. And it's rare because it requires sacrifice. It requires boredom. It requires saying no to things that feel good now for things that will matter later. Most people can't do that. They want results without restraint, progress without pain, strength without suffering. And when they don't get it, they say they're burnt out. But burnout comes from overgiving without recovery, not from underperforming. What most people experience is the weight of unfulfilled potential, the exhaustion of knowing they could do more but choosing not to. That drains you. That eats at you. That creates resentment toward yourself. Discipline fixes that. Because discipline aligns your actions with your values. When you act in alignment, your energy returns. Your confidence stabilizes. Your mind clears. You feel grounded. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped betraying yourself. That betrayal is the real exhaustion. Saying you want more and living like you don't. That split destroys people from the inside. Close the gap. Do what you say. Even when it's inconvenient. Especially when it's inconvenient. That's how you rebuild trust with yourself. And self-trust is everything. Without it, you hesitate, second guess, you overthink. With it, you move decisively. You stop asking if you're capable. You already know, because you've proven it through action. This is the work. Unsexy, repetitive, heavy, and effective. There is no shortcut to becoming disciplined. You earn it through days you didn't feel like showing up but did anyway. Through nights you wanted to quit but finished anyway. Through choices that no one applauded but you made anyway. That's how killers are built. Not violent killers. Internal killers. The kind that kill excuses, kill weakness, kill procrastination. Kill the old identity. You don't need to destroy the world. You need to dominate yourself. And that is harder. That is rarer. And that is why it matters. You're not burnt out. You're undisciplined. And the moment you accept that without emotion, without shame, without excuses, is the moment everything starts changing. Because now you know what to fix. And disciplined people fix things. They don't complain about them. They don't romanticize suffering. They use it. They shape themselves in it. And they move forward regardless. Quietly, relentlessly. At some point, discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. You don't wake up asking if you should do the work. You wake up knowing it will be done. That's the shift. That's when you stop feeling lost. Because structure gives direction. When your days have rules, your mind has peace. Chaos comes from too many options. Discipline removes options. You don't debate. You don't negotiate. You execute. And that simplicity is powerful. Most people are exhausted because they argue with themselves all day. Should I do it? Can I do it later? Do I feel like it? You cut that noise out. You decide once, then you follow through every time. That's how mental strength is built. Not through hype, through certainty. And certainty comes from repetition. From doing the same hard things until they become normal. That's why disciplined people look calm. Their lives are not easier. Their minds are quieter. They don't carry the weight of indecision. They don't carry the guilt of procrastination. They don't carry the shame of unfinished promises. They handle their responsibilities. And that creates confidence. Real confidence. Not loud, not fake. Quiet, heavy, unshakable. You feel it in your posture, in your voice, in how you walk into rooms. Because you know you're doing what needs to be done even when no one sees it. That self-respect changes everything. You stop seeking approval. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining yourself because your actions speak louder than your words ever could. This is why discipline is freedom, not restriction. Weak people think discipline limits them. It doesn't. It frees you from your impulses, from your moods, from your excuses. It puts you in control. And control is everything. When you control yourself, nothing outside of you has power over you. Not stress, not fear, not pressure. You adapt, you respond, you move forward. This is why disciplined people don't collapse when life hits them. They've trained for impact. They've rehearsed discomfort. They've suffered on purpose, so unexpected suffering doesn't break them. That's strength. And strength is built daily. In small choices. In moments no one cares about. In actions that feel insignificant at the time. Until they're not. Until weeks stack into months. Until months stack into years. Until you look back and barely recognize who you used to be. Not because you became someone else, but because you finally became who you were supposed to be. This is why you can't half commit. Discipline doesn't work at 50%. Standards don't work when they're optional. You either hold the line or you don't. And if you don't, weakness takes ground. Always. So you draw the line. And you defend it every day. Not emotionally, not aggressively, consistently. You don't wait to feel ready. You move while feeling unready. You don't wait for confidence. You build it through action. You don't wait for life to slow down. You become strong enough to handle its speed. This is how you stop feeling burnt out. You stop living in contradiction. You stop saying one thing and doing another. You stop wanting change without changing behavior. That alignment gives you energy. Direction gives you energy. Progress gives you energy. Comfort drains it. Distraction drains it. Excuses drain it. And now you see it clearly. Burnout was never the enemy. Undisciplined was. And now that you see it, you can't unsee it. Every time you want to quit early, you'll know. Every time you want to skip the work, you'll know. Every time you want to blame circumstances, you'll know. And that awareness is dangerous. Because once you're aware, you're responsible. And responsible people don't make excuses. They make adjustments. They tighten standards. They correct behavior. They move forward. This is the path you're on now. Not because it's easy, but because it's honest. And honesty builds strength faster than motivation ever will. So when days get hard, and they will, when motivation disappears, and it will, you don't panic, you don't spiral, you fall back on discipline, on structure, on habits you built when it was hard on purpose. That's why you'll keep moving while others stall. That's why 2026 will feel different. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you stopped lying to yourself. Because you stopped calling undisciplined burnout. Because you chose control over comfort, execution over emotion, standards over excuses. And that choice compounds every single day. Best of luck going into 2026. Stay disciplined. Stay ruthless with your habits. Stay patient with the process. You're not behind. You're just getting started.